Okay, so one of the things that I'm always addressed with when I bring this up with the MRS is, Mark, you got 35 years in amateur radio, and you're going to tell me that LTE-based services is emergency radio. No, it's not. If the infrastructure goes down, it will go down with it. And I do not argue with you with that. That is very true. Okay. But the same applies with 2-meter. Now, we rely on 2-meter and UHF, VHF band frequencies for emergency mobile communication all the time, without question. But we also assume that we've got plans in place to keep those repeaters up. But the fact of the matter is, you know as well as I do, because I've worked on repeaters, and those things take money, they take time. You have to find someone that's certified to climb a tower to fix the antenna, and they go down. Equipment breaks. Well, isn't that the same problem? So really the question is not so much, is the service going to be 100% dependable? The question is it going to be reliable in the situation that I'm involved? So, yes, LTE service is very questionable from the standpoint of traditional amateur radio operation. I totally agree. But if you think back, there were times that always came where the newest technology was always questionable. UHF, VHF was questionable when all you had was long-range communication through HF. You know, what's the purpose of something that's only line of sight? You always had these things. And then we had the repeater, the ROSE digital services, packet, all of these things. Well, how is that going to be used in emergency communication? That's not even, you can't even talk. You have to have a computer for that to happen. Well, it all took its place. Then we had the internet that came on the scene, and then the evolution of Amtor and several other things. Then along came the internet, and then All-Star and digital. And, you know, All-Star, no, I'm not an All-Star guy. Don't get me wrong. I may be speaking out of turn, but it is internet-based from what I understand. So if you have internet connectivity issues and those All-Star repeaters aren't working, you're still down. So the question is not whether the service is going to be 100% reliable. It's a question of, is it going to be available when I need it? And and then how is it going to function? So again, it's a question of procedure. How are we going to utilize it? And then when that service is not reliable, when it's not working, again, what do we fall back to be a very proficient emergency communicator? I need more tools than just one in my toolbox. Along those same lines, which I addressed on an earlier video, is we have a resource sitting out there that we either discount or legally they cannot get involved, and that is unlicensed radio operators. The problem with that is, especially with like Skywarn, again, I go back to Skywarn, there are a lot of people out there that are community minded and want to participate in emergency situations. They just really want to contribute to the cause as far as notification of inclement weather, emergencies, response, all of that. But they either don't have an FCC license to get on the amateur radio bands, or they may, I've run into this, they have a license, but the equipment that they have doesn't meet the situation. They're not in the club, so they can't connect to the repeater. They have an HF rig that they can work long distance, which is fine for hurricanes, but they don't have a mobile rig that they can use for short distances or localities or being local. Or just the opposite. They have a handheld rig that they can work local, but anything outside of maybe a 20-mile radius or something, then they're unable to assist. So it just goes on and on. And again, it's not coming down on the situation we're in. It just is what it is. So now we're reaching out with a new technology, which has been around a long time. As I can remember back, and I'm an IT professional, and I manage cellular service at my employer. I remember when Verizon, in my mind, was the first one to come out with push-to-talk service. You could pay for this extra service, and you could use your phone, your smartphone, as a push-to-talk communication device, much like a walkie-talkie, if you will, or handheld radio. But it worked over the cellular service, which now piggybacks the internet service. But that push-to-talk mimicked radio communication, and it was accepted and used widely. So now we have an opportunity to kind of flip the script, if you will, and we can leverage the cellular service, the LTE service, through a radio communication type environment to produce the same results. But now we can leverage both licensed and unlicensed individuals, as long as we're managing the protocol, the communications, and the equipment itself, and the groupings. So if we've got all that under our belt as far as management goes, then really, and management and adherence to the etiquette, if you will, the radio etiquette. If we've got that under our belt, then we can greatly expand the participation that we have available in the community. And I think that'll be great, because like I've said earlier, if you can get some people involved that want to be involved, yet they're not quite there to the point of making a decision about pursuing their amateur radio license, then that'll draw them in even farther. So that may whet their appetite to go ahead and get their ticket and then join the club and contribute to the amateur radio community. So I will say in closing, I'll try to keep this a little bit shorter, is I contacted these LTE companies and I pulled them on the carpet. I just raked them over the coals, so to speak, because they will market this technology as emergency communication radios. And I have argued online, I've argued through social media, I've argued by telephone call, saying, no, this is not emergency communication. And then they kind of got through to me a little bit, and I saw the light from a standpoint of saying, well, if it's utilized properly, it can be used for emergency communication, but you can't just market it as if the infrastructure goes down, you can use this as for emergency communication. That's not accurate. You all know that that's not accurate. If infrastructure fails, really the only thing that you can come back to is HF rigs on battery or solar backup. That's really the only thing that's left is HF. Because nothing else is going to be adequate for getting you out of those type of infrastructure catastrophes, okay? So, but again, the same applies. Anything that's mobile, short range, it's just another tool in the toolbox, just like HF. So, anyway, just want to throw that out there, that I know some of the feedback has been, like I said, Mark, how in the world can you just add LTE, the cellular technology, like it's radio, when it's really not radio? Well, that's a battle that we can cuss and discuss later, and there's valid objections, and then there's the point of taking it in as just a new technology like everything else that we've gone through in the past. So hopefully This gives you a little bit of food for thought. We'd love your comments and questions and the opportunity to discuss it a little bit further as we build out this MRS system. So if you would, leave your comment, get in touch with me. Go to wb5vdg.com and read up on what we're trying to accomplish and I'm trying to manage out. And we'd love you to participate and get in on the discussion. Look us up on the Facebook, WB5VDG, and find us on the Facebook group and get in. Love to talk with you. 73.